You know that feeling, that really specific sinking feeling. It's it's not a breakup. It's much quieter.
Hmm.
It's that moment maybe a few weeks after a romantic thing where you hit a wall and you realize that something you thought was happening just wasn't at all.
It's like you realize you were carefully reading a map and the other person was just out for a walk.
Exactly. And it's so disorienting because, there wasn't a fight. No one lied.
Yeah.
You suddenly see that you were working with a totally different set of assumptions.
The ground doesn't vanish,
Yeah.
but the entire landscape shifts.
Yeah. It's a very particular kind of confusion. And today we're doing a deep dive into what I think is the definitive text on this exact feeling. It's an essay by the writer and philosopher Pedro Malha.
It's called Sex as a Promise No One Made.
It is.
And this is such a heavy hitter. I think we need to set the stage for you, for the listener right
Yes.
now. This is not a deep dive about ghosting or, bad dates in the way we usually see on social media.
Right. We are not here to bash the person who didn't text back.
We're declaring a no-villain zone for this conversation
Yeah.
because it's so easy to just label someone a narcissist or a manipulator.
And sometimes that feels good, but Malha argues it's usually not what's actually going on. He's doing something, I think, much deeper. He's looking at how we create meaning around intimacy.
Right. And specifically, why sex, the act itself, creates these huge expectations, all without a single word ever being spoken.
So that's our mission today, to really unpack that title. We want to get into the mechanics of how, as he puts it, implication turns into belief.
And how two perfectly reasonable people can share the same physical experience and walk away with two completely different but totally valid internal realities.
And why that gap is so painful, even when no one actually did anything wrong.
Okay, so let's get into the machinery of it.
Yeah.
How does this whole thing even start? Because, the common narrative is that we're just being delusional.
Oh, totally. We tell ourselves, I was just projecting, I made it all up in my head. But Malha says, no, that's not it. Expectations aren't really conscious decisions.
No, not at all. If it was just a calculation, you could go back and check your math.
All right. But he says it's organic, it grows on its own, it doesn't start with a promise.
It starts with, he says, 4 specific things.
Proximity, repetition, familiarity, and warmth.
Let's break those down because they sound so simple, but they build on each other. Proximity, repetition, familiarity, warmth.
Think about repetition. You have one great night with someone. That's a dot on a page, a single data point.
Right.
But then you do it again next week. And then you get coffee. All of a sudden, your brain isn't seeing dots anymore. It's connecting them. It's starting to draw a line.
Malha has this killer line where he says, sex moves without language and yet leaves traces that feel like meaning.
Traces that feel like meaning. That's everything, isn't it?
It is,
Yeah.
because we are fundamentally pattern-matching creatures. It's how we survive. If I sleep with someone and they hold me after and we laugh and then they text me something funny the next day, my brain is hardwired to connect that into a pattern. And that pattern has a name. It's called relationship, or at least relationship in progress. It's what he calls a quiet adjustment or a leaning towards continuity. Your mind isn't, planning the wedding.
Yeah.
You're just organizing your day-to-day reality around the suggestion of a future.
It's like a kind of emotional gravity. You don't decide to lean in, the momentum just pulls you that way.
And the most heartbreaking part of his argument is how this feels from the inside. It doesn't feel like you're inventing it.
It feels like recognition.
Exactly. What do you think he means by that? By recognition?
Well, I think it's that feeling when you click with someone, you don't feel like you're building something new from scratch. You feel like you're discovering something that was already there. Like, oh, there you are. This makes sense now.
Yes. You're uncovering a truth,
Right.
not inventing a story.
Right. So when it turns out that wasn't the shared reality, you don't feel like you just made a mistake. You feel like you were hallucinating.
But Malha's point is, you weren't hallucinating. The data points were real. The warmth, the texts, the laughter, that all happened.
The architectural drawing you made from that data, though, that was all yours.
And that leads us inevitably to the moment it all comes crashing down.
The disorientation, he's so specific about this feeling. He says it's not the discovery of betrayal, like finding out someone cheated. It's the discovery of implication.
That distinction is so crucial. Betrayal means a promise was broken, a contract,
Right.
but implication.
Yeah.
It's just a suggestion. It's a vibe. You can't sue someone over a vibe.
He describes the feeling as the landscape just suddenly being different. Like you thought you were walking through a field and you look down and you're actually on a cliff edge.
And the person you were intimate with, who's standing right there next to you,
Yeah.
they don't suddenly look like a monster. And that's almost the worst part.
Oh, it's so much worse. If there's some cackling villain, you could just be hangry, you know? Put on a breakup playlist and get over it.
But they're not. He writes that they appear ordinary, consistent with themselves. They didn't change. You're finally seeing them without the filter of your own expectation.
And they just look like a person who had a good time and is now going about their day.
There's an analogy in the essay that
Yeah.
it just floored me. I had to put it down for a minute.
I think I know the one you mean.
He says the realization feels as though a sentence was being completed by only one person.
It's devastating. I mean, just picture that. You're speaking the first half of a sentence, you feel the rhythm of it, you assume the other person is right there with you.
And then you get to the end and realize you were the only one who put a period there. Or maybe you put a comma, expecting more, and they put a full stop 3 words ago.
That's the core of the confusion, isn't it? If the closeness felt real and the intimacy was mutual, how could the meaning be unilateral?
Malha asks that exact question. And I think it's the thing that keeps people awake at night. We think of meaning as this bridge between two people.
A shared thing.
Right. But the hard truth he's offering is that meaning can be a solo event. It can happen entirely inside your own head.
Like the tree falling in the forest, it made a huge sound for you.
But for them, it was just quiet. And that doesn't make the sound any less real for you. It just makes it incredibly lonely.
Which brings us to the other person in this equation. Because, like we said, the go-to story is the victim narrative. He led me on, she played me. We crave a villain.
And Malha just flat out refuses to give us one. He's very firm.
Yeah.
No villain, no manipulator, and usually no victim in the way we traditionally think of it.
Instead, he talks about 2 different internal orientations.
Okay, let's unpack these, because this is where it all starts to make a painful kind of sense.
So you've got person A. Let's call them the closed circle.
Okay, the closed circle.
They experienced the intimacy as a moment that stood alone. It was complete in itself. A great night, a real connection, maybe even really tender, but it was a circle. It was finished. It didn't need a next step to be meaningful.
So the meaning for them was entirely in the present moment. It wasn't an investment in the future.
Exactly. And then you have person B, the opening door.
Yes. For person B, that same encounter wasn't a closed circle at all. It was an opening. It was an arrow pointing forward. The start of something.
And the absolute killer is that neither of them is wrong.
Either position is false. They're just not the same. And because sex doesn't come with, a user manual or a list of terms and conditions.
There's no contract.
No.
Yeah.
So these 2 completely different realities can exist side by side for a long time before they finally collide.
We just don't say, hey, just so you know, this warmth and affection is valid for tonight only. It would kill the moment. It feels so transactional.
It feels cold. And Malha reminds us humans are pattern-making creatures. Our brains crave a story. We want coherence. And if the other person doesn't define what this is, well, we'll just define it ourselves.
But hold on, isn't there some responsibility on person A, the closed circle person? If you see someone is clearly acting like it's an open door, texting you good morning, making plans, don't you have some kind of duty to clarify things?
Mm-hmm. That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? And Malha suggests that often person A isn't trying to be deceptive. They just don't read those signals the same way.
So what they see as leaving a toothbrush is just convenient.
They might think, oh, this is nice. We're friends who have sex and friends are warm to each other. They see the warmth as just warmth, not as a promise of more warmth to come.
It's a translation area.
A massive one. One person is speaking the language of casual, the other is speaking the language of romance, but they're using the exact same words, the words of touch and attention.
Wow. And when that error finally comes to light, the emotional cost is huge. Malha talks about this very specific kind of pain. It's not just sadness, it's shame.
Embarrassment. The feeling of being naive.
Yes, that awful gut punch feeling of, oh my God, I'm an idiot. I read into everything. I'm the clingy one.
And this is a part of the essay I just love, because he really defends the listener here. He says, look, you didn't read into things that weren't there. The reading didn't come from a fantasy. It came from actual gestures and time spent. You weren't delusional. You were just interpreting the data from a different perspective.
He introduces this concept, though, betrayal of the self. Can we dig into that? Because that felt really profound to me.
It's such a crucial shift. We usually feel betrayed by the other person. But he argues the real sting comes from feeling like you betrayed yourself, like you let something unguarded slip out.
You showed your cards too early.
Exactly. You revealed a desire for connection, for continuity that you didn't mean to voice out loud, and now that it's clear it's not reciprocated, you just feel exposed.
And you blame yourself. Why did I let myself care? I should have been cooler.
It's that whole cultural narrative, isn't it? The person who cares less wins. We treat emotional detachment like it's some kind of superpower.
Yeah, we do.
And Malha just pushes back so hard on that. He says expectation is not a moral failure. It's not a lack of self-discipline. It's a natural human response to being included in someone's intimate life.
I think that's so important for people to hear. Feeling attachment after intimacy isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign your brain's pattern recognition software is functioning perfectly.
You're not crazy. You're just human.
It's so. If this is all so natural, why is it so impossible to talk about? Why do we choke on the words, hey, I thought this meant something more?
Because language completely fails us in this situation. The second you try to put that feeling into words, he says, it sounds like a demand.
It does. It instantly sounds like an accusation, like you're trying to trap them into a relationship.
Right. You say, I thought we were building something, and they can just say, well, I never said that. And they're not wrong. Technically, factually, they are correct.
So your entire expectation is suddenly rendered illegitimate.
Illegitimate in retrospect, yeah. It feels like it had no right to exist, even though 5 minutes ago it was shaping your whole reality. As soon as you say it out loud and they don't confirm it, it just evaporates. And you're left looking foolish.
And what about their reaction? He mentions that the other person is often just genuinely surprised.
That's the real tragedy of it. The closed circle person might feel totally blindsided. They think, I was just being myself. We had a nice time. Why are you acting like I owe you something?
So they feel accused.
Yeah.
And they get defensive.
Exactly. And that gap between I was just being nice and you were making a promise, that's where the connection dies. It's not a big fight. It's just a quiet, mutual withdrawal.
Which brings us to the aftermath, the residue, as he calls it.
Mm.
He says there's no clean conclusion here. It's not like a normal breakup where you can get closure.
There's no error to correct. There's no one to blame. So there's nothing to resolve.
So what happens to us then, after we go through this?
He describes a soft withdrawal or a narrowing of the self.
Oof.
You learn a lesson, but it's the wrong lesson. You teach yourself to close up a little more next time, to be more guarded.
That is so sad, a narrowing of the self. It's like you build up scar tissue around your own hope just to protect yourself from feeling naive again.
It is sad. But Malha is also a realist. He acknowledges that sex can be casual. It can be light. But it can be light and still leave something heavy behind.
It can be unplanned but still be taken seriously by your own heart.
Exactly. We have to be able to hold that paradox. And that's the space he leaves us in at the end of the essay. A space where there is real emotional consequence, but no moral fault.
It's a space where you can say two things at once. One, my expectations were crushed and I'm in pain, but you didn't actually do anything wrong.
And two, you didn't do anything wrong, but my feelings are still real and valid.
It's like we need to forgive ourselves for being human, for being the pattern-matching creatures we are.
We do. And we have to stop needing the other person to be a villain just so our own pain can feel legitimate. Your pain is legitimate because you feel it, period.
So, okay, let's bring this home for the listener. What's the practical takeaway here? Because we've all been in that situation, staring at a phone, feeling like a complete fool.
I think the biggest thing is to just stop gaslighting yourself. When you find yourself in that spot where you expected more and didn't get it, stop telling yourself you were crazy or delusional.
You weren't hallucinating the warmth. It was there.
No, you weren't. The self that hoped for more wasn't naive. It was responding to real information. And the self that didn't intend more wasn't malicious. They were just operating in their own reality.
It's not a judgment on your worth. It's just geometry. Two lines that ran parallel for a while and then diverged.
And maybe it's a reminder to just respect the power as implication. Our actions are always speaking a language, even when our mouths are shut.
So as we wrap this up, it doesn't really offer a solution, does it? It's not a how-to guide.
No, absolutely not. It doesn't fix the problem. It just validates the loneliness of it. It gives it a name.
If you had to leave our listeners with just one final thought from this deep dive to really chew on, what would it be?
I would go back to that idea of unilateral meaning. We're taught that for love or a relationship to be real, it has to be mutual. If it's unrequited, it's pathetic. It's a mistake.
Right. That's the rule. Unrequited love is something to be ashamed of.
But Mala suggests something so different. If closeness can be meaningful without being intended, then maybe we need to accept that meaning can be real even when it is solely our own to carry.
Meaning can be real even if you're the only one carrying it.
Exactly. Just because they didn't finish the sentence with you doesn't mean your half of the sentence wasn't beautiful or true. It just means you were the only one who spoke it. And maybe that has to be enough.
Wow. That really does turn the whole idea of feeling pathetic completely on its head.
It restores a kind of dignity to the person who dared to care more.
Look, if you're listening and you're feeling that narrowing of the self we were talking about, maybe just take a breath.
And give yourself a break for being human enough to look for a pattern.
Absolutely. Keep your own door open. That's it for this deep dive. Take care of your internal landscapes, everyone, and we'll see you next time.